Many years ago, my mom and dad planted a small fir tree in the back of their yard. The tree grew up and it grew strong and straight and tall until it reached a certain height. And then the top of the tree veered off and it started to grow crooked at a really weird and unnatural angle. It grew crooked for about 5 or 6 feet, and then it bent back and it started growing straight again. So it's got this really, really strange C-curve shape right in the middle of its trunk. Well, why did it grow that way? It's actually quite obvious if you take a look. There is a power line, a telephone line I think it is, running across the backyard. So the force of the electrical waves surrounding that power line caused the tree to grow crooked. Once it got past that influence, it got back into line and grew straight again. As a spiritual metaphor, I could use this illustration in one of two ways. I could say that the power line had such a negative influence on the tree that the tree grew crooked. Or I could take a look at the tree and I say, you know what, that's a pretty smart tree to steer clear and avoid getting near that negative and unhealthy influence of that power line. Either way, this is a really good illustration for today's point of contrast. My name is Mary Cassian. Welcome to the Girls Gone Wise video book blog. Influence, her impact on others and their impact on her, is the 18th point of contrast between a wild and a wise woman. Influence is the power to sway. It's the power that somebody has to affect another person's thinking or actions. A girl gone wild exerts and is affected by negative influence. A girl gone wise exerts and is affected by positive influence. In the Proverbs 7 narrative, the young man appears to initially resist the advances of the wild thing. He's not sure about getting entangled in a messy affair with a married woman. No, not such a good idea. But then, the text reads, all at once he follows her, as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a stag is caught fast till an arrow pierces its liver, as a bird rushes into a snare, he does not know that it will cost him his life. The woman succeeds in persuading the young man to sin. Persuades translates a Hebrew verb meaning to bend, just like that tree in my mom's yard. It indicates that the woman turned the young man away from the direction he was headed. He was growing this way, and because of him, he ended up going that way. She was the negative influence that compelled him to sin. Now, that's not to say that the young man wasn't responsible for his behavior. He was just as guilty as she was. But she was the negative influence, the fatal attraction that put him on the crooked path that led to death. I wonder if the young man thought he was immune to her negative influence. I wonder if he rationalized that he'd just hang out for a short while and keep her company that evening. She was obviously lonely, obviously so unhappy with her marriage, and she needed a friend desperately. Maybe he thought that he could help her. Maybe he thought he could be a positive influence in her life. The fact that she had to persuade and compel and sweet-talk him into the affair, and that he hesitated before giving in, indicates that his standards for sexual conduct were higher than hers were, and that he wasn't planning on having an affair. Negative influence is very, very powerful. Not only does the Bible want us to stop being a negative influence on other people, it also warns us to avoid people who might be a negative influence on us. A righteous man is cautious in friendship, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. A girl gone wise chooses her friends carefully. She doesn't take on just anybody for a friend. She takes a look at that person's character and decides whether that's a good person to hang out with. She knows that if she constantly and exclusively hangs out with people that don't love the Lord, chances are that they're going to have a greater influence on her than she will have on them. They'll affect her negatively. Scripture says, don't be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Paul was aware of the incredible power of negative influence. He told his friends not even to associate with anyone who was a Christian, if that person was guilty of sexual immorality or greed or idolatry or was a drunk or a partier, he says, don't hang out with people like that. Don't even eat with them. Now, that's pretty radical talk in our culture. We are all about, I'm okay, you're okay. But Paul knew that the people who have the most negative influence on believers are other people in the community of faith who profess to follow Christ, but who are hypocrites. There's less danger associating with those who openly reject Jesus than hanging out with those who claim to follow Jesus, but who really are mediocre and compromising in their spiritual walks. The sage father advised his son, "Whoever walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm." What's really sad is that later in life he ended up going against his own advice. He started keeping the wrong kind of company. The women he associated with were a negative influence on him and ended up turning his heart away from wholeheartedly following the Lord. Solomon was probably tripped up by the classic foolish assumption that, hey, it won't happen to me. I'm amazed at the number of women that think that they're immune to the power of negative influence. They think that they're strong enough and that they've walked with the Lord long enough to be above the threat. So they start taking really foolish risks in relationships. They let down their defenses, they cross boundaries, and then they end up crashing and burning and wondering how it happened to them. What about you? What kind of people are you hanging out with? Are you surrounding yourself with good friends, those whose hearts are on fire for God and on fire for spreading the good news of Jesus Christ? Have a look at your life this week and at the influencers in your life and how you are influencing others. When it comes to influence, are you living your life as a girl gone wild, or are you living as a girl gone wise?